This is a book review of Jack Kirby's Forever People of Supertown, as it says there. You can see that there, and there's the back. Now, this is 300 pages, obviously from DC Comics. This book came out in 2020. It's part of an ongoing series, numerous books, of course, Mr. Miracle, Demon, Commandy, and so on, many others. Lots of omnibus editions as well, but this one's obviously a 300-page paperback version of it. Don't go for every single omnibus. I try and get the omnibuses, but sometimes I end up getting these sort of lovely collections like this. And what does it include? Well, it includes Forever People, issue 1 to 11. Also, it's got a bonus gallery of character profiles and pencil art. And also includes, I'll go through all the characters, Beautiful Dreamer, Big Bear, Mark Moonrider, Seraphan, and Viking. And this is obviously, it's got Darkseid in, and it's got many other characters that turn up in this book. And there's one thing with Jack Kirby, just so inventive all the way through. Just superb work. Now, I'm just going to quickly show you the first page. Obviously, got the details here. There's the details there. You can see those. So obviously Vince Coletta, also Mike Royer for inks. It doesn't actually say who did the colouring. Now, I have no idea who did the colouring for this. Doesn't seem to mention it at all there. But anyway, there's the table of contents. It's got the list there. And then on to the first of the comics, and you can see straight away, it's got Superman in. It does include the covers of all of comics in this. So obviously all of 11 issues there's covers of, which is really nice. And this one was, like I said, it's got Superman in. Obviously, you've got introduction straight away to the various characters in this book. And then on to the next thing. Well, Forever People, In Search of a Dream, Our Man in the Boom Tube, inked by Vince Coletta, and guest starring the immortal Superman. So you've got the initial, all the characters there that are going to be appearing. And, well, we've got some, initially they appear out of nowhere, obviously through this boom tube, and some various people just perfectly happy that suddenly some mysterious people suddenly appear and nearly knock them off the road. That's the initial, we get introduction. And we got the characters all, we start to get obviously an impression of some of the characters there. And I've also got this little box. Basically, it tells a sort of supercomputer, the mother box. And everyone seems to want this mother box. They're all sort of trying to, all the way through it. And also you've got lots of different characters turning up. And this is so inventive all the time. Actually, it gets to the point where after a while, I must admit, I'm thinking, another load of characters, another load. So there's sort of maybe a couple of comics, obviously, with one set of characters, then off to another adventure. It's just everything is thrown into this. Of course, you've got Superman. I love Superman when he's looking at this photo and he's got his supervision and he can probe into the tube's strange depths. And I love it, you can actually see this thing. And then he goes for some reason. It's actually a very unusual Superman. I mean, maybe it was Superman of that period. I'm not certain, but certainly it seems to be slightly different from the usual Superman that I'm. But anyway, we've got Darkseid is obviously after these Forever People. The thing is with Darkseid, he's a very odd character. He seems to be perfectly happy to let them get away sometimes. He's sort of like, oh, I don't want to do. He just wants to, because what he wants, of course, is this anti-life thing. He seems to spend all his life looking for the anti-life equation where he can control people. Why bother? Anyway, obviously he decides this is obviously what he wants to do. Well, he's obviously got a variety of different people that, well, this one, anti-life equation, the ultimate weapon. You got there. At this point, I must admit, I did find Kirby's artwork still absolute superb, still so powerful, full of energy and dynamic. Really, I don't think there's any artist that could compare with the energy. But quite often, there's a lot too many of these sort of poses with people standing out. Very sort of, I always felt quite clunky sort of poses. Who would stand like that? That is just, I mean, it's a power pose. It's not really. It's sort of like, you can really ask him to hit me kind of thing. But he did bring out, look, you got the Infinity Man, you got all the various Mantis, as you might say. It was like a roller coaster of invention throughout this. So you've got this story. And also, when he goes into the city, you've got all the variety of different, just beautiful artwork as well. I just thought some of the brilliant things, but there were a lot of these sort of big, obviously massive pictures like this. It was not fine detail by this point. That's the one thing that you see, but still so inventive all the way through. His designs and just brilliant. The various things, I love this, the mother box. It's got ping, 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 sort of supercomputer that you can obviously, the internet connecting to it. It seems to know it, but it uses it to turn into this Infinity Man. And you've also got lots of, they've all got powers, all these various people, they can cast illusions and things. It's not like sort of like the X-Men or something where they've all got sort of standard costume. Now at this point, you've got them all a mix of characters. Obviously you've got this guy that's super strong, bursts through. You've got this guy that's got these sort of capsules in his hat and he can do a variety of different things. Well, yes, you've also got this, and you've got some weird characters. You've got this guy, Protect Glorious Godfrey. You've got Godfrey, who's sort of very, another one of these anti-life characters. Very odd, very odd. Well, Darkseid, of course, is all the way through this, initially anyway. He does sort of drift off a bit from the Darkseid story. That sort of changes a bit. But you got Meet Desaad. This is obviously, you got Desaad there. When I look at some of these, I must admit, you got some of the pictures of like Desaad. I always think about the 1940s ones of Jack Kirby and Joe Simon. They really do look that sort of style. There's a sort of feeling like the circus of crime kind of thing, that sort of, or whatever they were called, of hate or something. You got Kingdom of the Damned. I love this. We're prisoners. All these people are stuck in this sort of carnival on this, obviously on this planet, Happy Land, and they've all got these things to manipulate. It's just so inventive all the way through. Just brilliant. I mean, I think these would make absolutely crazy, brilliant TV series. This would be just people would just be so utterly confused, I think, because it's just full of just inventiveness all the way through. And Darkseid as well. I just love the way he's sort of the cosmic jokes, and he's sort of like talking to this guy in the sort of bear in the carnival, the fairground, and he sort of bursts into laughter. This guy runs off. Like, he doesn't blast him or anything, you know, for sort of talking. Sort of, this is no time for, you know. I must admit, this is another thing, slight criticism of this. I did find times when I was reading this, and maybe it's just me, maybe some of the dialogue did sort of wasn't really, you know, could have done with a bit of editing. I mean, I'm certain it was edited, but it quite times I felt it quite odd, just the phrasing sort of. And again, maybe that was fine for the characters. Maybe I'm just being. Maybe I shouldn't expect all the characters to speak particularly in a particular way. But there was a sort of element you just felt some of the text just sort of, you know, the bear is a hardy one, is he not, sire? Just odd, just wait. No. But still, can't criticise Kirby for just producing an absolute masterpiece. I love this character, Sonny Sumo. Sonny Sumo. Fascinating characters, all these characters. And just again, continue. Even when you've got that storyline with Sonny Sumo, you've still got the inventiveness all around of this Desaad sort of creating all these illusions, trying to find and destroy, reduce the Forever People to, and also you've got this, again, you've got this sort of, quite often did this sort of struck me a bit like The Thing when he went to the planet, when, and he was battling, I can't remember what his name was, but the Skrull world, the sort of similar sort of thing. Anyway. But Darkseid is not always prominent. It's like Darkseid is always there, but he's sort of like, there's some of these, obviously Desaad, sort of, and all the various characters are all sort of relating up to this Desaad character. The Omega effect. Now this is quite good. Also had little sections which sort of suggested that they were going to, and this is very similar to the Tales of Asgard sort of thing. You've got like here, the Supertown, Young Gods of Supertown introducing Lonar. And you've got here walking through obviously a deserted city and all the various inventive, all the various swords, and even gets this, you know, just great. And I love the one thing I mentioned, this brilliant vehicle that they've got, absolutely superb all the way through. Darkseid, of course, with all this sort of evil, so doesn't get much about this. We get a little bit about the High Father. They sort of like turn up briefly, so you've got sort of brief bit about the High Father. And it's just useful for one of the couple of the stories. But I like this story, and it's pity that this story didn't continue a bit longer, where they sort of go back in time, and you've got like a little bit. It's a sort of sort of brief sort of thing, a bit like Doom when he goes to the treasure, doing in issue 5 of Fantastic Four, where you go Blackbeard things. You've got a bit of that sort of historical thing, which makes you wonder what Kirby would have done with all these sort of historical dramas set with all these characters in different places. Just great. You've got obviously the Spanish there, and you've also got the Romans obviously invading Britain. And I just think, I don't know, you've got another short story. And also it nicely ties off some other storylines as well using this. Weirdly, most of the artwork in this is superb. It's really sharp, really beautiful source material. I don't know what source material they use, but it's crystal clear. So I guess it must have been. But then you've got there's one just at the end, and this one here. And it's the last page of this issue, and I don't know which issue it is. And it must have been issue 7. The artwork suddenly deteriorates a little bit. So I don't know, maybe they just lost a page or something, because it just seemed, but then you got another short, Lone Art of New Genesis. And then you got the power. Now I love that, the power. This sort of anti-life thing seems to be spread everywhere. Lots of people have got it. It's not just one person. You've got this, it's this, but you've got this guy that's got it, and he obviously, but it's just again the inventiveness. You've got this city that everyone's surrounding, and these characters obviously going around, and just brilliant, so inventive how he uses it. So that's just a great little story. However, then for some weird reason, and I do not understand, and maybe there was a reason. Now this is Monster of the Morgue, which is, interesting that clearly they were thinking about it. Obviously, previous issue. Sometimes you get those where you get the title and then the next issue doesn't seem to relate to it at all. But obviously, clearly, you got here Forever People. You got Sandman Battles. Obviously, Sandman was also in the comic, not these stories, but in the comic. And also, there must have been other stories as well. Unfortunately, these issues are quite expensive. I haven't got any copies of the Forever People. But 52 pages as well, big pages, 25 cents. And you got, I love those. I always love those sidebars where you show all the faces. I don't know why. There's just something about those. Didn't do enough of those in Marvel. But DC often like Justice League of America, just brilliant. You got here Monster of the Morgue, again, very much like the old 1940s sort of comic. There's very sort of feeling that sort of Frankenstein, the sort of monster period sort of stuff. So you've got, and you've got the Dead Man kicks in the story, which sort of just felt out of place with all the rest of the Darkseid and all that sort of stuff. Suddenly Dead Man turning up, which is nice, because as recently, of course, there's the Dead Man, I should say, omnibus. And you got Dead Man there, and I'm just going to... Oh, yeah, that's quite good. That's the way that's done there. Right, let's just move on to... Don't want to show that bit. To show a section of the Dead Man. Of course, can't find one. That's always the way, isn't it? When you're looking for a bit... Well, just you can see again the cover there, Dead Man. And then, actually, the next story is slightly odd after the Dead Man story finishes. That's all resolved, of course. And then he puts... And it's quite weird. They've actually got here, a new Kirby blockbuster is on the way. The Demon. So you've got the Demon there. And then, this is issue 11, obviously the final issue. Doesn't actually say on the cover, which you'd think it would, finale, last issue, or something. But there's nothing. Infinity Man returns. It's too late for other people. There's no escape from the pursuer. And you've got Forever People. And you've got this sort of... Now, I actually found the artwork in this one became even more chunky, to my eyes. Maybe I'm being, again, unfair, but it really sort of lots of, sort of chunkiness to the artwork. However, the story is rushed. That's my... I just felt it was rushed because it's the last issue. It's the last issue of the whole series. And it's sort of like you think, well, that should have been like 2 or 3 comics, this story. And maybe a bit more explanation, a bit more what's name, and a bit more build-up. This is one criticism I have of this book. So there's no real build-up. You don't feel that there's any crescendo or drops or crescendo. It's sort of like just constant action in the book. And it's all resolved or whatever. And then up again, just bits of story, you've got another story. But there was no sort of like underlying build up to this moment, the finale. And I don't know if they did any more stories of Forever People. If there's any others, I have not done any further research about the Forever People. I thoroughly enjoyed this. It was a nice brilliant volume that I just thoroughly enjoyed reading all the stories, but what they did afterwards, no idea at all. However, that's the end of the book, and you've got these lovely sections at the back, which I loved. I love these sort of things. Also, actually, what would have been even better, of course, something that doesn't often appear in DC ones, which I wish they would, and that's a couple of essays, forward or something, some details, some background. What was it about, about why certain things, like Roy Thomas or something, like a Roy Thomas. I know Roy Thomas probably wasn't, but when he does those sort of discussions about whole heaps of information about the background of things, and it would have been great to have had a little bit of that. And sadly, you get obviously the background of all the characters, but you worked out most of that from if you've got the comic. So the Mantis sort of thing. Obviously, Mantis doesn't get much of a backstory. Gives obviously details about can generate tremendous heat, etc., with his thermal touch and all those sorts of things. But that sort of stuff, if you've read the comic, you would see. Darkseid doesn't get an entry either. And then you've got some lovely posters here, which is always good. And then on to the final bit, you've got a lovely bit of Kirby there. And you've just got some original art. I mean, actually, I would love to have seen the Forever People done with the pencil artwork. The pencil artwork is superb. That actually is, I mean, you really see the beautiful Kirby artwork, absolutely brilliant, the original pencils. And so if they brought that out, I would definitely be very interested in seeing that. Sort of an artist edition one with this. Just in this sort of size volume. I think it would just be brilliant. However, that's it. You've obviously got some ads at the back, Mr. Miracle, and that's it. Thoroughly enjoyable book. I absolutely enjoyed Jack Kirby, Forever People. Totally recommended, and has actually made me rush off and buy a number of other books connected with the series. And so put my, as they say, cards on the table. I have not been a New Gods, etc. fan, so it's really nice to get this sort of book and actually really sort of read this near enough for the first time. Some of these stories, I read some of them many, many, many years ago, but they're not so familiar to me that so it was a pleasure to read these, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And so I just ordered a few more volumes in these this sort of series of books. So totally recommended.